I'm Elva Johnston and I'm an associate professor in the School of History. When I started in UCD and I started teaching here, my first sort of experience of mentoring was with graduate students in MA programs. And that was really great, and I got to get a sense of, the joy the students got in their research and also the way I could guide them a bit more. And from there, it was sort of a natural progression to start working with PhD students. So it's partly, being established in UCD for a little bit longer, having mentored students from, undergraduate level up to graduate level, and also then beginning to attract in students from outside of UCD. So it was quite a natural progression. It wasn't something that I thought about or that I planned. If I was going back now, I would have sort of planned it a lot more and maybe been a little bit more organised in how I did it, but it did just develop very naturally and organically. One of the things that the programme taught me is that I have probably a tendency to be overly interventionist. So if I feel a student is maybe being challenged or might be struggling, my first instinct is to jump in. And sometimes that's not the right instinct. Sometimes the challenge is part of the natural progression of a PhD. And the best thing to do is to just step back, be there if the student needs you, but also let them use the resources they've developed themselves to surmount it. And for me, that was really the biggest thing, is I sort of stepped back a little bit and said, maybe I should listen more to the students. Maybe I should have trust in them, that they've developed these skills, that we've worked together, and that they can overcome the challenges themselves. I mean, obviously sometimes you do have to step in, but for me that was a big learning, was sort of allowing students to just step onto their own 2 feet and not be always there as a crutch. Mentoring is probably one of the most important things that we can do for each other in the university environment. Now, when I started, and we were talking decades ago at this stage, I was really lucky that I did have a colleague in a very similar area of history to me, who acted sort of unofficially as sort of a mentor figure. That wasn't the case for a lot of people, and I think one of the really good changes that's happened, I suppose maybe in the last decade, is there's much more of an understanding around mentoring early career researchers, I think, in particular. So I mentor a colleague, for example, in that way, and I find it's a really great relationship because I learn an awful lot myself from working with somebody who's sort of a more recent hire to UCD. And it does create those sort of intergenerational sort of support networks as well, which I think are just really important. The key advice I would give in terms of starting mentoring is actually to listen. That would, for me, be absolutely the most important thing. As academics, we're often trained to disseminate, expertise, information, but while you're disseminating, you're not always listening at the same time. So I think giving space right at the beginning to listen, to not prejudge, to not jump in and say, I think that actually that's a really bad idea, is to let people work things through themselves, have the guidance there, but absolutely to listen. That would be the number one piece of advice I would give.